Damn. So Blizzard actually went and did it. They've changed how Mythic Plus gearing works to be at least slightly better. I don't think it's fixed at this point, but it's better and it's true. Valor points are returning. Surprisingly enough, if you would have asked me, I would not have expected them to release Valor points as an optional currency in World of Warcraft for Mythic Plus gearing. I would have expected them to leave the Mythic Plus gearing system the way it is, but they've actually gone and kind of changed it. And with that said, they've made a new blue post, and let's discuss this blue post and read through it a little bit. So first thing Kaivax says is we've opened up the public test realm for patch 9.0.5 and the next update to World of Warcraft, which is now in testing and expected to be released in March. All right, that's cool. This update will be a little bit different from our usual patches. It's focused almost entirely on systems. Cool. And responding to community feedback about rewards, doing tuning that requires the sort of notice and iterations that PTR allows, and then fixing a range of bugs that are beyond the scope of our ability to hotfix. We know that everyone is eager to hear about the next chapter in the Shadowlands saga and what new adventures and rewards it will bring, and we'll have a lot of new information on that front in the very near future. In the meantime, use this patch to get changes into your hands faster than a larger content patch will allow. So basically they're saying that they could either release this in March with a 0.5 patch, or they could release this stuff in, I don't know, May or June or whatever, whenever the next patch is going to come out. So they're electing to release some of the systems changes come March, and with that, here are two of the larger changes you'll see in 9.0.5, with further iteration to follow over the next few weeks. First and foremost, and the most important thing, and probably the main focus of this video, upgradable Mythic Keystone gear, the return of Valor points. We've seen a lot of feedback about the pros and cons of various systems and sources of gear in the Shadowlands endgame. After a rewarding first few weeks, we know that many dungeon-focused players reached a point where only relevant rewards of the system came from the Great Vault. Yes. While the Vault should represent a major goal, and the source be the best rewards the endgame has to offer, we want to find a way for the loot from the chest at the end of a challenging Mythic Keystone run to feel relevant. Good shit. I agree. Without bringing back random upgrade systems such as Warforging, which partially solved the problem in the past. We also want to prove a more consistent reward for the effort for players who do not receive an item at all. This gives you even more of an incentive to run different dungeons, play with consistent groups, and not, like, I don't know, shoehorn yourself into running DOS 15 dungeons in a row because you only need a box. You can actually run other dungeons that you find fun occasionally. Wow. The framework for a system that attempts to address these goals should be present in the first PTR iteration, subject to ongoing tuning and refinement. Gear from Mythic Keystone dungeons is now upgradable, initially with a cap of item level 200, which players can raise to item level 207 by completing all 8 Shadowlands dungeons at Mythic Keystone 5 or higher. This will award a Keystone Explorer achievement, while the existing Keystone Conqueror achievement for all 10s or higher will increase the item cap to 213, and then item level 220 will be available by completing Keystone Masters achievement for all plus 15s in time. The currency used to upgrade Mythic Keystone gear is Valor, which is earned from completing Mythic Keystone dungeons or by doing Covenant callings with a weekly cap. Upgrade costs will vary by item slot and will be consistent across item levels. All right, so let's talk about this before we get into the Covenant legendary team. First off, this is very good. The fact that they're actually changing this gearing system to be more uniform with PvP makes a lot of sense. It will help players feel more incentivized to do lower level dungeons. It will improve player playability by incentivizing them to do callings, because PvP has like weekly quests from one of the PvP guys that gives them honor and conquest. This, you can get Valor effectively from doing some of your callings and some of your other PvE related activities. So all of this is really good. Issue I see right here is that they're stopping it at 15, and they're stopping it at 220 item level, especially whenever you compare that to what PvPers are getting with their gear. So just talking about this a little bit, PvPers are able to get 223 at 1800 and 226 gear at 2400, with the ability to be able to upgrade weapons to 233 item level once you are past that 2400 mark. Blizzard did not add anything past Keystone Master. They did not add anything past 15s. I think this was a mistake. Basically, so I think this was a mistake, but I think I understand from a Blizzard's perspective why they wouldn't want to do this. And let's talk about both sides. First off, I think this is a mistake because yes, it is rewarding players, and like 220 item level loot, don't get me wrong, this is a good change. Like, for people who are dungeon focused in content, this is a very good change. This is like a super sick thing. The issue I see is that sure they say things like they want a rewarding first few weeks, and that know that many dungeon-focused players reach a point where the only relevant rewards from the system come from the Great Vault. I mean, yeah, so the Vault should represent a major goal, but at the same time, like, do PvPers effectively have the same loot system, except whenever they hit 2400, they're able to get 6 item levels up on most players, or whenever they hit 1800, they're able to get 3 item levels up on most players who are only doing dungeons. And then, like, obviously they have the Great Vault, which everybody has the Great Vault, but that's neither here nor there, right? Okay, so the issue I see with this is that there should be an achievement for completing all, I don't know, 18s or 17s in time, and that would allow you to upgrade to 226 and then have 233 weapons. That way, at least the system is completely uniform across Mythic Plus, PvP, and Raid. I think that making sure that there's a uniform gearing thing across all 3 systems is actually really important. And honestly, it will create for a much better system just as a whole. It'll allow me to not have, I don't know, a 210 box still. And it'll allow other people to not, I don't know, have 210 Hakar trinket still and stuff like that, right? Where they really want other gear that they get from Mythic Plus, but they can't actually get it at 226 without just RNGing it out of the Great Vault. I think that there absolutely should be something that's done at like the 18 level. I think the 18 level is probably correct. The number wise, maybe even 17, but I think the reason, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, I think the reason that Blizzard is avoiding doing this is because they don't want to have to tune dungeons at that like plus 18 level. They want to kind of let it be more free flowing, which I think is a bit, I don't know, man. I think that they should just have to like knuckle down and like actually tune the dungeons at the plus 18 level, if that is the reason that they're not completely sending it to like a plus 18 and then allowing you to get these higher levels of gear. I think it just seems really weird that 220 is the cap. Honestly, 220 for Keystone Masters, all 15s, that's reasonable. The problem that I have is that there's nothing higher. But I'm glad that Valor's back. Honestly, I feel like the system is a lot better with the Valor rewards. I think that how they've designed this is a strictly better system than what we had before. Beyond that, let's talk about Covenant and Legendary tuning real quick. We've deliberately used a very light touch with any hotfixes that may have affected Covenant or Legendary balance, as we're keenly aware of the resources that players have invested in those systems. A patch, however, allows for ample notes for the community and a testing and feedback loop that should help ensure that we don't unintentionally undermine your investment to your Covenant or Legendary items. In many cases, the changes coming in 9.0.5 are improvements to Legendary items and Covenant class abilities that have seen comparatively less used by players. Basically, they're saying that they're buffing most underused stuff as opposed to actually nerfing down the overused stuff. We'll see how that actually plays out. We'll see if they actually gut the overused stuff or if they only buff up like the really bad stuff. I'm tentative at best on how this is going to resolve itself, but I'm excited by their wording at least. Our goal with these changes is to provide more gameplay options for crafting and utilizing Legendary items in specific situations, and to make sure that more players feel that the Covenant that suits their aesthetic, narrative, or other preferences for their character also feels more viable for their preferred playstyle. I agree with that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that it's very sad that Covenants aren't able to be swapped. That shit sucks. I think that it feels terrible whenever you're not able to swap your Covenant, and it upsets you every single time that, like, I don't know, you walk into a dungeon and you would rather have a Necrolord in that dungeon, but nobody can actually even swap to Necrolord even if you wanted to. Like, say you walk into Plaguefall and you really do want the slime buff, but nobody in your party is a Necrolord. And it's like, oh, Necrolord, but we have a Rogue. And you know Necrolord wouldn't really be that bad for Rogue, but realistically the Rogue can't swap from Night Fae to Necrolord with like reasonable time, and there's no expectation for him to be able to swap, but you know, that's just Covenants for you. The system is still, I'm still pretty salty about the system. I'm glad that Valor points are returning. I'm glad that they're looking to tune up some of the legendaries and do things that are related to those. And yeah, I think that's about it for the rest of the video. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys in the next video, and I'll link this down in the description if you want to read it for yourself. Goodbye, everybody.